I thought my biggest worry was a nosy neighbor bugging me about HOA fees. Turns out, I was dead wrong. My real problem? I'm the kind of guy who laughs so hard at a con artist's lies that they call 911 on me. Margaret Hensley, a slick-talking fraudster, tried to scam me out of $8,000 for a fake community doc. She seemed legit polished, professional, the whole 9 yards until her house of cards came crashing down. When we ended up in court, I couldn't hold it together. Her lies were so absurd, I started laughing, and Margaret dialed 911, claiming I was harassing her with my chuckles. Comment where you're reading this from, because this story gets absolutely insane. 2 years ago, after a brutal divorce that drained $45,000 in legal fees, all I wanted was a quiet life. I bought a modest 2-story house on Crescent Cove Lane in Willow Bay, a sleepy lakeside town in upstate New York. It was September 2023, and that little house with its sloped yard leading to the water felt like my sanctuary. I pictured lazy weekends fishing, leaving the chaos of my old life behind. I'm a veterinarian, running a small clinic in town, and this place was supposed to be my reset button. Little did I know, I just painted a bullseye on my back for someone like Margaret Hensley. She showed up on a crisp October afternoon, 3 months after I'd settled in. I was finally getting into a rhythm work at the clinic, home to my quiet retreat, maybe cast a line if the weather held. Margaret knocked on my door, looking like she'd stepped out of a corporate boardroom. Tailored blazer, flawless hair, and a thick binder that screamed competence. After years of dealing with my ex-wife's chaos, I was honestly impressed. Here was someone who had it together. "Mr. Carter," she said, flashing a megawatt smile. "Welcome to Willow Bay. I'm Margaret Hensley, president of the Crescent Cove Community Association." She said it with such authority, like she was the mayor of this tiny lakeside hamlet. I invited her in. "What else do you do?" She spread her documents across my kitchen table like a general laying out battle plans. Community charter, neighborhood maps, financial reports, all of it looked legit, with fancy letterheads and polished graphics. "We've been maintaining property values and community standards since 2020, she explained, flipping through pages of what seemed like ironclad HOA paperwork. Coming from a neighborhood where nobody cared about anything, this level of organization felt like a breath of fresh air. I was sold on the idea of a community that actually gave a damn. Then she hit me with the dock project. "Our big initiative this year is improving lakefront access for all residents," she said, pulling out survey results that looked straight from a city planner's office. The documents claimed 78% of residents supported a shared dock, complete with cost breakdowns and timelines. "It's $8,000 per lakefront property," she said, "to build a beautiful community dock everyone can enjoy." She was smooth, reassuring me there was no rush. "We respect that this is a big investment, James," she said, using my first name like we were old pals. I asked the obvious questions. When was the association formed? How many members? What other projects? Margaret had answers for everything. "I've been president for 2 years," she said confidently. "We have 23 active households, but not everyone joins right away. We get that people need time to warm up to community involvement." She showed me testimonials, photos of past projects, and financial statements that looked like they'd been audited by a Fortune 500 firm. It was an hour-long masterclass in persuasion. By the time she left, handing me a glossy packet and a business card with multiple contact methods, I was genuinely excited about being part of something organized. But as she walked to her car, my neighbor, Tom Bradley, a retired guy in his 60s, hustled over from next door. His face was grim. "That woman," he said, glancing at Margaret's retreating figure. "She hit us up for community fees last year. We paid $15,000. His voice dropped. "Haven't seen a dime's worth of improvements. No dock, no nothing." My stomach tightened, but I brushed it off. "Projects get delayed, right? Just be careful, James," Tom warned. "Something's off." For 2 weeks, I pored over Margaret's documents. Everything checked out: financials, timelines, even a website with more testimonials. I called a reference number. It went to voicemail, but the greetings sounded professional. I was ready to sign up. The dock made sense: better lake access, higher property values, a chance to be a good neighbor. After my divorce, I craved something positive, not more drama. So I called Margaret, and she answered like she'd been waiting by the phone. "James, I'm thrilled you're considering the project," she said, launching into payment options, $8,000 upfront or $2,000 quarterly over 2 years. The installment plan fit my budget, so I agreed. She showed up the next day with contracts, a receipt book, and an updated timeline. I wrote a check for $2,000 to the Crescent Cove Community Association, feeling good about contributing. Looking back, that was the moment I became her mark. For 6 weeks, everything seemed fine. I'd see Margaret around, always polished, waving and updating me on the project's progress. Then she showed up with a project update. "Great news, James," she said, spreading new documents on my table. "We're ahead on community participation, but material costs have spiked due to supply chain issues." She needed an extra $1,200 per household to secure lumber. My gut twisted this wasn't in the original deal. But her guilt trip was masterful. 22 other households have already agreed, she said, showing a list. "We don't want your family holding up the community." I didn't want to be that neighbor, so I wrote another check for $1,200. My total was now $3,200, and I was starting to feel uneasy. A conversation with a colleague at the clinic planted the first real seed of doubt. He asked who the contractor was, and I realized I had no clue. Margaret always talked about the contractor, but never gave specifics. I started paying attention, driving through the neighborhood, looking for signs of construction. No permits, no equipment, no activity. So I knocked on doors. The first neighbor, a young couple, had never heard of a dock project or an HOA. The second was the same. By the third, I felt sick. An elderly woman said, "That Margaret woman asked us for money, but we said no." Something felt wrong. The fifth neighbor looked horrified when I mentioned paying her. "You paid her?" she asked. We thought she was a scammer. By the sixth house, I was shaking. Nobody knew about a dock or an HOA. Margaret's 78% support was a flat-out lie. I sat in my driveway for 10 minutes, reeling. How could I have been so gullible? The professional binder, the patient pitch, it was all a performance. That night, Tom came over and spilled everything. Margaret had scammed him and his wife for $15,000 for a fake septic system upgrade, using the same polished documents and pressure tactics. When they pushed for updates, she ghosted them. They were too ashamed to report it. Then I found a note slipped under my door. "James, we need to talk. People are asking questions about you. Come alone." Margaret. The hurried handwriting and demand for a private meeting sent chills down my spine. Who was asking questions about me? Anger and curiosity got the better of me. The next morning, I marched to Margaret's house with a folder of evidence. County records showing no registered HOA, neighbor statements, a timeline of her lies. When she opened the door, her smile was forced. I didn't waste time. "Margaret, why do 15 neighbors know nothing about this dock project?" Her facade cracked. "You're stirring up trouble, James," she snapped. "Some residents prefer privacy about their contributions." She claimed other board members were concerned about my disruptive behavior. Board members? She'd always acted like she ran the show solo. Then I hit her with the evidence. No HOA registered, her website created just 8 months ago when she moved here. She doubled down, waving a contract I'd never seen, claiming I'd signed it at a non-existent February meeting. "I was working nights at the clinic," I said, showing my schedule. Her lies were unraveling, but she turned vicious. "Accusing me of forgery is a serious legal mistake, James," she hissed. "And check your veterinary license status tonight." That night, I found a complaint against my license for unprofessional conduct, filed the day of our confrontation. My spotless 15-year record was now under review, costing me time and legal fees. I called an attorney, Sarah Mitchell, who confirmed this was systematic fraud. Margaret was targeting multiple communities, but proving it in court would cost $8,000, $12,000. 2 weeks later, I was served. Margaret was suing me in small claims court for $4,800 plus penalties, totaling over $7,000, with forged documents and fake bylaws. Her harassment escalated: daily drive-bys, photos of my property, noise complaints about my clinic, even a report to the city for running an unlicensed business. Then came the 2 a.m. call from a woman who wasn't Margaret. "You should have paid, Dr. Carter," she said. "Now things will get worse." My blood ran cold. Who was Margaret working with? Sarah urged me to settle. Fighting would cost more than her demands. Neighbors started avoiding me, and Margaret spread lies that I was dodging my commitments. Online research revealed she was running scams in 3 other lake towns, targeting divorced or vulnerable homeowners, likely pulling in $50, $60, $000 a year. She was a pro, using small claims court to bully victims into settling. But Tom became my ally, agreeing to testify about his $15,000 loss. 3 days before court, Margaret cornered me in a grocery store parking lot. "Settle for $4,000, James," she said, her eyes desperate. "You don't know what you're getting into." I refused, sensing her panic. The night before court, I couldn't sleep, reviewing our evidence, county records, neighbor statements, Tom's testimony. Sarah warned me to stick to facts. Margaret would spin a sob story about community good. In court, she arrived with her briefcase and polished demeanor, greeting staff like a regular. But a middle-aged woman in a business suit entered and sat in the back. Margaret's confidence faltered when she saw her. Judge Thompson called our case, and Margaret launched into her act, presenting forged contracts and claiming I'd reneged on my $8,000 commitment. We countered with evidence. No HOA, neighbor denials, Tom's story. She brushed it off, claiming her group was private and not all residents attended meetings. Then the judge asked, "Ms. Hensley, where are your association's registration papers?" Her composure cracked. "It's all here, Your Honor," she stammered, fumbling through papers. "We're a private organization." The judge pressed. "County records show you moved here 10 months ago. How were you president for 2 years?" Margaret's face went pale. "The records are incomplete," she lied. Then the woman in the suit stood. "Your Honor, I'm Detective Emily Harper, Financial Crimes Division. We're investigating Ms. Hensley for fake HOA scams across multiple counties." Margaret's facade collapsed. "This is an ambush," she shrieked, demanding her attorney. I couldn't help but chuckle as her lies crumbled. "He's laughing at me," she yelled, pointing. "It's harassment." The absurdity hit. May was laughing at a con artist who'd terrorized me for months. Then she dialed 911 in court. "There's a man mocking me," she screamed. The operator sounded baffled. "Ma'am, laughing isn't an emergency." Margaret lost it, shrieking about community leadership as the bailiff restrained her. "Crescent Cove Association is real," she yelled as they dragged her out. Judge Thompson dismissed the case, citing her fraudulent claims. Afterward, Detective Harper revealed Margaret had stolen $85,000 from 22 families across 4 counties. My evidence and her meltdown gave police what they needed. They arrested her at a storage unit, packing fake HOA materials to skip town. They found boxes of forged contracts, receipts, and victim records. Her entire operation documented. Her 2 accomplices, including the 2 a.m. caller, a former paralegal, were also arrested. Neighbors shared their stories, fake landscaping fees, mailbox schemes. I recovered my $3,200. Tom got his $15,000, and Margaret was ordered to pay $100,000 in restitution. She got 2 years in prison and 3 years probation. Her house sold to cover fines. 6 months later, I built a real dock for $7,500 with Tom's help. We threw a barbecue, and 25 families came, creating the real community Margaret faked. My case became a training example for fraud investigators. A year later, Margaret called from a halfway house, apologizing. I wasn't buying it. "You terrorized people," I told her. Sitting on my dock, watching the sunset, I realized the truth. Real community doesn't need forged papers or threats. And when a scammer calls 911 because you're laughing at her lies, that's when you know justice has a sense of humor. What do you think? Could you spot a scam like Margaret's? Have you ever faced a con artist who seemed totally legit? Should victims like me settle to avoid the hassle or fight back no matter the cost? Drop your thoughts below, like, and subscribe for more wild stories.